Well, hello everybody and welcome to the next installment of our webinar series, the Maximum Performance Webinar Series. We're going to get started here momentarily with a great presentation being brought to you by the wonderful folks at Avantus, talking about how to rocket your mortgage business to the next level. So I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, one of the senior account executives at Avantus, Mr. Ben Derouchie, is joining me for today's presentation. So if you would, Ben, I'm going to have you say a few words just to let people hear you. And folks that are attending, if you would just let us know through the chat Q&A if you can hear Ben all right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Derouchie, and as Eric said, I work with Avantus and have been here for 18 years now. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you some of the products that we've created to help you grow your business.
Awesome. All right. Well, it looks like the response is quite strong from the folks that you can hear us pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the whole context of the programming today. Obviously, today's program really is built around the whole concept of the rocket mortgage concept. I mean, you know, one of the bigger challenges our industry has been facing is this whole disintermediation and the idea of being replaced by the robot. Very similar to what the insurance industry went through in the mid-'80s and what the financial planning industry went through in the '90s with the advent of the online trading platforms. Well, now that automation, robot mortgage world is coming to the mortgage industry. And a lot of us have been working to try and figure out how to survive and compete in that sort of a technology automation replacing the loan officer of today market. So what we're going to focus on today is 3 simple tools and strategies that are going to help you protect yourself against the potential of losing business to those online robot mortgage platforms, and at the same time how to skyrocket your business by leveraging successful technology that's going to help you generate significantly more leads, significantly higher volume of referrals, and virtually eliminate your credit reporting costs at the same time with some of the great tools that the folks at Avantus have created. So step 1 is you got to think about partnering, right? I mean, one of the biggest complaints is of the real estate industry, for example, if you think about it, is, you know, does the typical realtor, for example, like their borrower to go through Rocket Mortgage or any of those other online technology-based platforms? Well, the answer usually is no, because the quality of service is usually significantly lower for them. It's like trying to get a phone call or a phone number for anything you have to do with Google. It's virtually impossible to find anybody to talk to when you've got an issue or challenge. And when, you know, you're working with business partners like realtors, that whole concept really doesn't sit really well with them when it's their paycheck on the line on most deals. So one of the things that we find is really powerful as a strong mortgage professional is having tools and resources that allow you to be of significant value to those business partners. You know, one of the things that over the years I've came across is a way of trying to explain what I really mean. What does it mean to be a partner versus just having a referral relationship? Well, look at it from this perspective. Back around the turn of the last century, there was a group of scientists trying to come up with a unit of force, a measurement for a large amount of energy, and they were doing weight sled testing with draft horses. Well, they figured the average horse could pull about 12,000 pounds by himself. Well, you'd expect at least 2 horses pulling together to be able to do somewhere in the neighborhood of about 24,000 pounds of pull. But the scientists ran into one big problem. When they tried to scale the study up and they hitched 2 together, the record is over 104,000 pounds of pull, or roughly 8 times the results of one pulling by himself. So when we really think about the dynamic of how most relationships between loan officers and realtors work, if it's really more of that tit for tat, I send you a deal, you send me a deal, and we'll keep a scorecard type relationship working independently, there's really not a tremendous amount of value there, especially if there's not an equal level of reciprocation. But if we're truly working together as a team for a common goal, helping more consumers achieve what they want, which is an efficient and effective process of obtaining a home loan so they can buy a home. I mean, let's be honest, the excitement's not in the loan, it's in the home. That's what borrowers want and need, is the ability to acquire the home of their dreams. So then the second question becomes, how do you really become that true business partner, that asset resource that's going to help that business partner or realtor do substantially more business in the coming weeks, months, and years? Well, that's really coming down to the whole concept of how do you differentiate yourself from the host of other originators that are out there on the street. And the reality is, how often is it that every loan officer offers pretty much the same pitch, right? I mean, they all tend to go out there saying, we've got great rates, we've got good programs, we can close deals on time, we have good service, right? Well, do they or do they not? I mean, you look at even some of the basic, marketing lingo that's being used out there in the industry right now. For example, whole Rocket Mortgage, engineered to amaze, Quicken Loans, right? What's proposed and what's being delivered, is there accuracy there, or in the opinion of most agents, would they say there's a huge disconnect? And that's where a lot of us fall short. I mean, yeah, if you've got, perfect credit and 30% down, and by the way, I'd encourage all of you to do this at some point. Actually go on the website and apply for the Rocket Mortgage and see the kind of disclaimers that you see as you go through those screen flows. That system is really designed for the customer who assumes they know it all. But even then, there's opportunities to differentiate way above and beyond. In the interest of what we have time for today, I don't necessarily want to go deep into that, but it really comes down to, are we just a vendor, or are we a true partner in the success of that particular agent? And one of the things we look at is do we just want to be the guy who helps them get their deals done? Is that enough? Or do we really want to be someone who's an asset and resource to helping them do substantially more business in the coming weeks and months and years in the growth of that agent's practice? And that's really the bar we have to we have to climb over in the development of those relationships and partnerships, because at the end of the day, if I can't communicate accurately and timely with pre-qualifications, stay in contact and keep them informed throughout the transaction, and reasonably consistently close deals on time, do I even deserve the opportunity, or will that agent take the risk of introducing me to a buyer who's already approved somewhere else? And if I want that opportunity, then how much value do I have to create for that business partner where they feel like I'm an irreplaceable asset and they can't afford to do business without me? Well, that's what this next step is really all about. Well, one of the best ways we've found through the coaching and training work that we've been doing over the last 12 years here at Maximum Acceleration is that one of the best ways to be that resource or that true partner in their success that's going to help them do substantially more business is to be an accountability partner, a resource. I mean, if you think about from the sporting world, what do the greats all have? The Wayne Gretzky's, the Tom Brady's, the Michael Jordans of the world. Well, through the course of their development and career, they all had somebody that cared as much about their own success, if not more so than their own, to hold them accountable to a higher standard. And so when you look at being an asset and resource that goes way beyond the transactional, can I get a deal done or not question, there's some tools that we want to be able to provide them. One is to be a trusted advisor who can help them see things they may not necessarily see for themselves. Two is to offer them tools and resources that help them compete in ever-changing and highly structured and competitive environment. Because, guys, we aren't the only ones being commoditized in the real estate business today. The realtor is being replaced by automated technology as much as the loan officer is to a borrower who otherwise doesn't know any better. But what are the things that allow that business partner to be able to accelerate their growth? And, we're going to get into a few things here in just a minute about how to do that in a little bit more detail. But what it really comes down to is one simple concept, which is how to add value, right? When you think about how we grow business and how we do more volume as loan officers or you as originators reaching out to your business development partners like realtors, how do we help them drive more business? Well, there's a couple of key things that we need to look at, right? We're all given the same amount of hours every day, and how we choose to invest those determines our outcome, right? What we spend our time doing is a critical element of what we do or do not actually end up achieving at the end of any given day, week, or month. So one of the key elements of being a key business partner is maybe help them see things that they don't see for themselves. Like, how often is it that the agents are spending time doing a lot of things that are counterproductive or can be a complete waste of time in that perspective? I mean, we as originators intrinsically know that, out of every 10 buyers we talk to, probably only 1 or 2 are ready to go right now, the candidates that would otherwise sail through any of those automated robot mortgage systems. But yet, there's probably 4 to 6 of those customers who can maybe get ready down the road. So what the agent really needs from us, and one of the best ways that we can be that true asset to them, is helping them determine whether they should be spending time with those buyers or not. And, we think that most agents know this. However, do they know the difference between a verbal, 3-question over the phone pre-qual versus a thoroughly documented and verified, including credit review pre-approval? The message to the business partners or the realtors of the world is not all pre-quals are created equal. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of loan officers out there doing things that are counterproductive to the agent and the agent's ability to be efficient with their use of time, letting them focus on the deals that are ready to go, that are going to be competitive at offer time. They also need technology that supports and engages a customer that helps them capture that information and those concepts and ideas. Well, one of the best ways to have that conversation with them is getting the agent thinking about the value of their time and how many hours they spend doing things with customers. I mean, let's be honest, the average agent is typically going to spend somewhere between 15 and 30 hours with a customer, showing them multiple different properties, going through the home selection process, making offers, and waiting for response. Can they afford to invest that time with customers who aren't ready to really be competitive at the start? Because in a tight market, when we have buyers who are getting so excited about the property, they may be putting the cart before the horse or jumping the gun a little bit, and they're so excited to buy property, but yet, they end up in a situation where they're in a multiple offer competitive bid type thing, and if they don't have a solid and well-validated pre-approval, they don't have a shot in the dark at being able to actually get their offer accepted in many, many cases. So there's a lot of things that we can promote as originators that you can create value for that business partner, and tools that will help that process be done much, much, much more efficiently. Well, that's where the guys at Avantus come in. A couple of years back, they realized that this was a critical need for the mortgage and real estate industry, that the industry needed a true tool to be able to engage, capture, and evaluate customers, leveraging automated technology that gets the buyer what the buyer wants, which is clarity on their ability to qualify, and to do so in an environment that doesn't necessarily demand the individual time of the loan officer or the realtor. So that's where Start My Application becomes such a powerful asset to the mortgage and real estate industry. So I've asked Ben to kind of walk us through a little bit. What are some of the basics of Start My Application? What does that involve? And how can you as an originator begin to actually take advantage of that opportunity and benefit from it in how you grow your practice and how you reach out to business partners like realtors? So Ben, if you want to go ahead and hop in here and go ahead and fill us in on the details with Start My Application.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Eric. Yeah, we started 3 or 4 years ago on this project, and it's actually worked out very well for our clients and for a number of new opportunities we have using it. It was designed to help share the information with the consumer up front, give them something that they desire, and allow for them to actually pay for it. So it's a nice system, gives them a privacy of doing it when they want to do it, and give them access to the information that is critical in making a mortgage decision. So in our designing of Start My Application, we essentially create a web page for each loan officer so that their information is presented to the consumer. This web page can be linked into your current models that you have. If you have loan officers specific web pages, a link can be placed on there that says access my credit report and start my credit application or my application for a mortgage. And it gives the consumer an option to actually click on it. As we go through here, you'll see just a little bit. The first step is we ask for their email and password. This will allow them to go back at any time in the future and access their report going forward. And then we take them through the next steps where we ask them more details about their personal information. The critical items that we need to receive to pull their credit reports include the name, address, and social security number. We also force a few other items that are in there, and a few are optional. But it's key that we get their phone number, their information, so you can access the credit report, and we can pull it for them. In the next section, we actually let them pay for it. So here we set up a page where we're presenting the cost to them. The cost is basically the cost that the lender will be paying for the credit report. This just allows the consumer to pay through. The cost that you're seeing there is just the generic one we have up there, but each client is set up with their own straightforward cost for the credit report. The consumer will then pay with a credit card. When this transaction is purchased and cleared through, you will also see it on your personal invoice, and they'll show that it's paid already by the consumer. In the next screen, we show you a little bit more detail. We'll show you how the consumer gets to review the information that they pulled, and they understand what they're getting when they pull their credit report. Here's an acknowledgement down at the bottom that explains how they're accessing the credit report and all the disclosures that we need to share with them so that they can access their credit report. As we move forward, we set up a security questions page, similar to pretty much any online system where you might access your personal information. We challenge the borrower with 3 questions on their personal credit report. If they aren't able to answer them correctly, the credit report is actually already pulled, and the loan officer does have access to it because it's already paid for and pulled, but then the loan officer would have control to release it to them at a point when they communicate later. However, by answering these questions, they'll be able to validate their information and share the credit report with them to ensure security for everyone's personal information. Now you'll see what's presented back to the consumer. We present back a nice clean page showing their credit scores and a link to the credit report. If they click on that credit report view page, I'm not going to show it to you now, but it just pops up the consumer copy of the credit report, which is similar to the one that the loan officer will also have access to. So the consumer gets to see this on their screen, gets to get an acknowledgement of what the credit report is, and learn more about what's going on with their current credit history. In addition, below the screen, we share some security information and public record information that they should have access to when they get a copy of the credit report. On the next page,
in other words, it's totally compliant.
Compliance, ensures compliance. As soon as the consumer has done this, the loan officer is going to be receiving an acknowledgement or an email. This email notification will go directly to their cell phone, their PC, wherever they are, and it'll be presented to them with their name, a report ID, which reflects the report ID on the credit report, and a link that'll bring them back to the website where the loan officer can view the credit report. Once they view the credit report, they can give the consumer a call back. They can do whatever they feel the next steps are best in order to get this consumer into their mortgage loan that they want to be in.
Right. So you guys think about this from a filtering perspective. You've got a realtor who's working an open house on a Sunday. You're out with your family, maybe you're around the barbecue grill or watching some football, and your realtor is showing a property. They have buyers walk through that they're trying to identify. The realtor can direct them to the website on a tablet or an iPad or whatever mobile device. Then the borrower can obtain their credit report, which is the actual credit report that they will use with you for the actual production of that loan, and determine whether or not they're going to be a ready-to-go right-now buyer or something else. And if it falls into that or something else bucket, I mean, we all know that there's borrowers out there who have challenges that are obstacles to qualifying right now, but they're relatively simple ones. They need to pay down their credit card balances to get their debt-to-income ratios back under 50% and able to qualify. They need to eliminate maybe a couple of small old collections that they need to pay off and get a little bit of past them and seasoning so their scores come back up. They need to adjust some of their credit card balances to get their debt-to-limit ratios back in line, or maybe they need to save up a little extra for down payment. But with a little bit of guidance and coaching, they could get ready to buy in 3 to 6 months. Now, this is another way that you can add an additional layer of value to those business partners like the realtors. Not only can you save them a tremendous amount of wasted time and effort on the front end about who is or isn't ready to go, but you can also take and incubate those deals and work with those 4 to 6 customers out of 10 who aren't quite ready to go. We call them the maybe sixes, maybe 6 months or so. If they do the things that we coach them on doing, they'll be ready to buy. Well, we can educate the realtors on how that's a bank of deposits in kind of like an account that they could withdraw from in the future for future leads and business. For example, later in the year, if you get past the summer buying season, past Labor Day, markets typically slow down a little bit. Well, what about all those buyers that the agent didn't have time to work with over the summer? What happened to those guys? Did they have an agent or a business partner like you as a mortgage professional to support them and be working with those clients that they first talked to back in May who might be in position to buy in October, and bringing that deal back to those agents as a withdrawal from that bank of future opportunities that they made deposits into back in March or April? And so when you do that, that creates a value to create a win-win partnership with those realtors, those financial, those business development partners that they may or may not necessarily have ever thought about as a potential value. In our experience, and correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, and feel free to chat in and communicate with me about this, but my tendency and experience has been, and most of my clients' experience has been, is that realtors tend to be pretty well focused on the here and now, right? The hot deal that can move ahead right away. Most agents tend to be fairly reactive and fairly transactional. So if I set myself up to be able to then bring back future deals to them that they wouldn't have had otherwise, then I can articulate a value point of why they should be introducing me to every buyer, because I'll nurture and incubate those deals where someone else likely wouldn't. And by having tools behind the scenes, and we're not going to go into detail into this, but Avantus also has some cool tools that help you evaluate and provide information and education and guidance to the customers to help themselves get in position to qualify. The other thing that this provides for the agents, if you think about the value of this Start My Application tool, remember it's a very simple, easy, clean website that's set up to follow a similar pattern and workflow for the consumer that is very similar to that TurboTax style experience you get with some of the best online, robot mortgage application systems. But the agent also gets the benefit of being able to co-market with you and provide that front-end value on all of the online marketing they are doing with all of their property listings. So whether it's Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, Realtor.com, or any of those other websites, they can link you as their mortgage partner to that front-end lead capture. The buyer can take advantage of applying and getting started with the Start My Application system, which gets an immediate level of grabbing the customer and getting their attention and catching them, but also to provide them the guidance and support that they do have the high touch. The reality is that the millennial market, especially the under 25 age groups, the next generation of home buyers, there's two key things we know about millennials from this, from a lot of the research that's been done. One is there's this rugged individualistic independence of I can do it online, I can Google whatever I need style of approach. They really don't like to talk to people when they're at that initial curiosity phase. They like to feel it out for themselves online, which is why that generation especially has been highly attracted to a lot of these robot mortgage platforms. But at the end of the day, when they're about to make an important choice, they like to have the high touch of somebody that they can see, that they can talk to, that they can touch, and that they can feel to make that final step and that final decision. So SMA, Start My Application, and the other tools that Avantus provides gives you the best of both worlds, where you have the high touch and the high touch side by side. So your agent and you can have the same sort of visibility and credibility of any of the robot mortgage platforms, but in addition have that high quality customer service experience that customers are so drawn to. So at this point, we're going to open it up for questions, guys. If you want to go ahead and pop those questions into the Q&A. Ben, hopefully you've seen a couple of come through as we've been kind of talking through. What were some of the questions that you've seen come through the chat? As I've been presenting, I haven't been paying as much attention to it, but any questions, guys? Go ahead and fire us over any of the questions about the system or any of the concepts or strategies that I've introduced to you guys so far today.
Well, one of the questions actually I see in here that I pulled out was, what can be done with this credit report? I reissue a number of my credit reports now to my wholesale lenders and whatnot. Can I use this credit report the same way? And yes, the answer is yes. This credit report is actually the same credit report you would pull if you requested it yourself. So that credit report will come to you with a report ID that can be reissued to any of the national wholesale companies or reissued to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or any service that you're using for underwriting. So it's a pretty efficient system that way. The consumer, when they view the information, they get to see their complete credit report, which is nice. They get to see it privately in their own space, and they can't use it anywhere else because that credit report actually belongs to you and can't be reissued to any other lender unless you reissue it yourself.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, the other element of this, and you know, the other thing I do know, and what you guys may not have been aware of, is Avantus is actually, they started as a credit bureau and were a credit service provider vendor before launching the SMA tools. You know, they were just looking for ways to differentiate themselves and add value to the frontline consumer, you, the originator. One of the questions that came through here, Ben, was you know, about, but my company already has a designated credit reporting provider. Any thoughts?
Well, the nice part about our system, we would obviously love to become your primary credit report vendor and primary access point, but we understand there are allegiances and so forth. What this system allows for you is an opportunity to have a second one in place if that's a need. As the credit report that comes through is very easily usable, just like your current one is, and can be used to close your loans as an additional service as well. So we're flexible in those terms, but many of the services we provide usually add much more value. I mean, one of the services that we add in that's not being spoken about today is we have a snapshot pre-qual that's also available that helps the consumers to actually, helps the loan officer to kind of take a peek at the credit report and see where they stand without posting an inquiry. And that adds a little more value to our service, along with the number of verification services that are linked in with a number of the loan systems that make our system that much more user-friendly to use than some of the other ones that are out there.
Right. And guys, you know, I mean, keep in mind that, you know, this goes back to that value proposition question that we were talking about towards the beginning of this. I mean, you know, there are a lot of different credit vendors out there. One of the unique things that makes Avantus more valuable to you guys is the fact that they do provide tools that can dramatically impact and reduce the actual cost of credit reporting that the company is paying. I mean, keep in mind, if 40, 50, 60% of your borrowers are paying for their own credit report right up front, as opposed to the more traditional model of where you as the loan officer are pulling the credit report and therefore your company is paying for that credit report, you know, it could be staggering when you think about the volume of applications that are being done every day across a large organization. So my recommendation to this particular individual who asked that specific question is, you know, get with the guys at Avantus, introduce them to the executives that are in charge of making those decisions at your company, and let them have a conversation about because all things being equal, the costs are going to be relatively the same. The only difference is Avantus is going to help dramatically reduce the number of those reports every month that your company is paying for versus your borrowers. And as a result of that, potentially dramatically positively impact the bottom line. All right, the second question that came through here is, let me read the question out just as it's written. In California, I found that pre-qual is not sufficient to start shopping for a new home. Pre-qual doesn't weed out those that aren't ready to even apply for a loan, and that's good. Most, if not all, offers require an actual pre-approval letter. Comments welcome. In that case, and I would agree with you, in highly contested markets, you're going to find that the agents want a fully validated and documented underwritten pre-approval. And, you know, this doesn't necessarily replace that need, but it certainly gives you a more efficient method for getting that process started. Yes, as a loan officer, you would need to be able to jump on it. But again, think about the open house scenario, right? You know, I'm an originator. I'm working an open house with one of my favorite agents. I have 10 or 15 buyers walk through. If all of them are doing this start my application process, that information is being gathered without a tremendous amount of effort on my part, which then allows me to have that first layer filtering, right? It knocks out the 20 or 50 or 60% that for credit reasons alone aren't ready to go. Then from there, it allows me to focus on the 4 or 5 who have good credit or qualifying credit. Then I can weed out who's going to be able to move to the next level. It just allows me as an originator to be much more efficient and a much stronger asset to my business partners about identifying who is or isn't ready. And that's really what the design of this system is built to do. All right, one more question we've got in here, and then we promised, by the way, that we were going to keep this to less than 45 minutes, so we've got time for probably 2 more questions. I will say, by the way, guys, to anybody who does have additional questions that we haven't addressed yet or that we run out of time for, go ahead and please post them in the Q&A here, because we are going to be able to respond to these questions after the fact and catch this information for you guys as well. The question here comes in is the credit report delivered as part of the borrower's application, and is the loan application mandatory to receive a copy of the credit report or credit disclosures? Ben, why don't you check that one?
Right. So when they request their credit report through Start My Application, they're going to receive a copy of the credit report that you are going to potentially use to pre-approve them for a mortgage. So that's the base of it all. The disclosure purposes are up to each individual company in terms of your preset requirements and how you deal with those. However, it's based upon all the information that you get, whether you get the property information and the other additional information as part of this, then your determination on how you respond to that will be based upon your standard response that you would make to anyone that's starting their application with you. If they take it to the full step and share with you all their information, then appropriately you'd probably have to respond within 3 days with the appropriate information. So it all depends on how much information is shared and how you want to respond to it.
And I'm assuming, Ben, that all really can be administered at a company level where the company involved could decide how much information they do or don't want to grab on the front end, right?
Right. Each company has some controls over certain elements of it, but the base is to allow the consumer to put in the information.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. And again, obviously, TRID compliance and those kind of things, are things we can talk about in future events or future sessions. Again, we're trying to give you some nuts and bolts and some real valuable stuff that you can use right away to go get more traffic. Let's see. One of the questions here is the Start My Application tool optimized for use on a cell phone or mobile device?
Yeah, it's a website that's easily accessible, so everything is accessible no matter on whatever device you're on. So it's easy to use, easy to click on, and easy to get your information back. So it's actually streamlined up for every system. When the consumer clicks on it, it's all presented to them in the format based upon what device they're using.
Awesome, awesome. All right, well, there was a question that came in here about how do you market for customers and how do you drive traffic for the website. That may be a topic for a future event, but I mean, again, guys, this is a capture and conversion tool and not necessarily a direct marketing tool. However, there are some unique advantages that you could promote by having SMA that would allow you to at least promote yourself at a level playing field with a lot of the other online marketing services. For example, if you as a lead generation or lead acquisition strategy, you're buying leads from online services like bankrate.com or LoanSifter or what's some of the guaranteed mortgage guarantee rate. Some of these other different online lead source providers, you can link your SMA tool as a more efficient method of providing that additional layer of value to those online consumers who are looking for a better and more detailed information. And you could certainly highlight some of the advantages to the consumer that SMA provides as part of that marketing strategy. And to the rest of the Avantus team that's listening on in the background, that might actually be a great topic for a future webinar in this series. All right, so other couple of quick questions. You know what? Actually, I'm going to do one quick thing, guys, just before we run out of time. There's one last thing that there were a couple of questions that popped in about, and that had really more to do with how do we get started. So really, there's 2 elements to this, which is, one, if you are not already set up to use Avantus, if you're not already an Avantus subscriber and participating partner, The first step would be to get involved and find out more about the system by going to that personal demonstration and discussion. Often these guys will do a credit reporting cost analysis for you guys as well, and do sort of a cost comparison for you as well. If you already are an Avantus user and are not currently participating in using the Start My Application program, then certainly what we want you to do is, in either case, we want to go ahead and use the chat Q&A platform here in the webinar as a primary method of communication. Of course, if you do have to be watching this program on video, just go to avantus.com, and there's a contact us button on the website that we can get to as well. But if you guys are interested in moving forward or finding out more detailed information about how this program would work for you and your company, all we ask you to do is just give us your contact information, the name, address, the company name, the email, contact information, and phone number, so that the Avantus team can connect with you and get you the questions that you need more specifically about how to get started with using the Start My Application tool. There is some technical setup stuff that they've got to go through with you as well. But if you guys are interested, go ahead and take advantage of this opportunity right now to post the email, phone number, and name information for those for the Avantus team, so that they can respond to you timely and get you started with this information. As we have just a few more minutes here before we've got to close down the platform, there's just one last thing I want you to think about, and then we'll get to some follow-up questions. One of the things we did at Maximum Acceleration back around the starting point, when we were doing a lot of our research and development work to get going with the coaching program, we came across a study that was done in 1993 by Brigham Young University, and what they found in that study is there are 4 key things you need to do if you want to have a 95% or better chance of implementing the ideas and strategies you are exposed to. So one of the things that we developed is, when we do an educational program, we always ask you to take some initiative. I mean, you've just invested roughly 40 minutes of your time at this point in learning more about how to generate more business in a purchase environment, how to skyrocket your mortgage practice to compete with the robot mortgages. The problem is, ideas are useless if they're not implemented or acted on. So here's the 4 things you need to do. One is set a goal. What is the first thing you want to implement based on what we've shared with you today? Second is, what specific action steps do you need to take to make that idea happen for you in your daily business going forward? Third is, you need to put some deadlines on it. So make a decision by when you're going to have each of those action steps completed. And then the 4th key element is creating the accountability. Share that action plan and those deadlines with someone, and ask them to follow up with you as you're approaching those deadlines to keep you on track. If you do those 4 things, you have a 95% or better chance of implementing the powerful strategies that we've exposed you to in today's program. And one of the best things that I can recommend you get started with, and just so you know, guys, this is something that I sought Avantus out, because when I found out some of the cool stuff that they were doing in addition to what standard the majority of your credit reporting vendors are offering, I was blown away. I felt like I had to share this with our members and with our customers and our clients over the years, because if I had had this when I was originating, I fully expect I could have done double, if not triple, the business with the same team that I had, because we used to have to do this the old-fashioned manual way. Long story short is, when you have a tool like Start My Application, you'll instantly know when home buyers are ready to move forward. You'll have the information and capture on hand. You'll have the tools and resources to be able to be versatile and approachable at any marketing and business development opportunity, open houses or otherwise. It's going to be able to be online and create that high-tech feel that so many customers are drawn to today by all the advertising and marketing that you see out there. And instantly, you're going to be able to have a lot of background information without it being a total disruption to your personal life as well. So I strongly encourage you to seriously take in mind the opportunity to move forward with something with the Avantus team, and strongly encourage you to take that next step of contacting the Avantus team to get started. Again, the easiest way to get moving with that is just post in the Q&A webinar platform right now the contact information for the Avantus team to get a hold of you and schedule that consultation appointment. Or if you're an existing Avantus client, get a hold of your account exec and talk with them about making sure this feature is turned on and set up for you guys. Again, if you want to go ahead and let us know through the Q&A platform that you'd like your team to the Avantus team to reach out to you, please do so through the website at this time. All right, otherwise, guys, we've got just a few more seconds here. We can address maybe one or two additional questions. Ben, did you see any additional questions come through that you feel like we need to address?
Well, one question I saw was in reference to like TILA and RESPA and doing things with the new responsibilities and disclosure of credit reporting prices and so forth. And what we've done for clients is we've actually taken their pricing in some cases, and we've done what's called a bundled price, which allows for the lender to charge one price, and that price being the total charge of what the consumer will have to pay through the entire process. And when the consumer actually pulls their credit report, they can pay one price up front and not have to worry about anything in the follow-up. So it's a nice little piece that allows for compliance, allows for the consumer to pay up front, reduces costs for the lender and the mortgage company, at the same time shares very valuable information with the consumer, allowing them to get access to information when they want to have access to it, and also allow them to know that this should be it for my cost for a credit report in this transaction.
Yeah, which, by the way, guys, is a really nice feature, cost control, especially if you're dealing with borrowers who are, not your grade A triple prime, 800 FICO and 40% down customers, right? It's a cost control feature for them as well, which is highly attractive. There's a lot of other selling advantages to the systems that Avantus provides. Certainly a lot more information that we could probably spend 10 hours going through with you if you had the appetite for it. But at this point, if you guys, we're pretty much done with today's program. So we appreciate your participation. We want to thank you and welcome you to join us on future events of this type of program. And if there's any additional questions, feel free to reach out to the guys at Avantus and get in contact with them with those more detailed questions.